this morning, I took a screenshot on my phone so I wouldn't forget this. And it was just one of the many things that I saw this weekend, and they were calling them visual vacations. Rather than using the word guided imagery, they use the word visual vacations, because that's kind of what guided imagery is. And it says, neurologists have found that simply gazing at an image of a beautiful beach floods the brain with calming alpha waves. It slows our breathing and it lowers our pulse. So even if you can't be there, you can feel as relaxed and as happy as if you had. And that was just one of the small ones. I think right now, when we're looking for so many different ways to do things to combat stress, this is one of the easiest ones that there is. So I've got up on the screen here, what is guided imagery? And we will send these out. So if you're somebody who likes to have the notes and everything, guided imagery has been proven to quickly calm your body and simultaneously relax your mind. It is one of my very favorite things to do. This is one of the things I use to go to sleep at night. It's pleasant to practice. It is not difficult to learn. Basically, just kind of walking through it, you can, and the more you do it, the easier it is. It not only helps de-stress, but is a useful strategy for resilience during difficult times, because you can kind of learn to go to another place in your head. And I'll put this in red. It's very similar to having a daydream and kind of giving yourself permission to have this daydream and to go to another place. But the point of guided imagery is to be able to go there with all of your senses, be very mindful about the place that you choose to go. You can be guided by an instructor, and we're going to do practice with an instructor at the very end of today. You can use audio recordings, or you can just use your own voice and your own imagination, which is the easiest to do, and that's the way that I practice this. And many hospitals are using guided imagery to help patients during treatments. This is really common when somebody's having to undergo some type of a treatment. The one we're going to watch today actually is from a children's hospital where they use it with children that are having to have treatments. They're teaching them guided imagery. So what is involved in doing guided imagery? Part of it is just getting into a deeply relaxed state, and we're going to build on some of the ones that we've done in the past. If you've been with us the last few weeks, where we've done deep breathing and meditation, most all of them, it's talking about sitting in a position where you're very comfortable and taking really deep breaths. But with guided imagery, we're going to want to really pay great detail to our senses. We all have something called memory maps. So if I were to start saying things like, okay, here's one that just came out last week. If you're a Starbucks person, I guess their pumpkin, what's their coffee that they do in the fall? There's, I know my daughter went and stood in line for it. Jamie, what is it?
The pumpkin spice latte.
The pumpkin spice latte came back out. And so if you're one of those people that likes that, you could probably taste it and feel it and smell it, because you could automatically, or if I say, think of the smells of Christmas. Each of us had some type of a different smell or the taste of the holidays. So those are sensory memories, and those are sensory memory maps that we have. And a lot of guided imagery is using those sensory memory maps. So usually the scene is from nature. It doesn't have to be, but usually it is from nature, like a beautiful waterfall or a forest or a park. But it can also be something real that has happened to you. It could be enjoying a great meal with lively conversation. It could be a holiday that you've spent, or it can be something like a movie scene or a TV scene, where like you place yourself in that movie or you place yourself in that TV show. Many people talk to a guide during their guided imagery time, and by talk, I put that in quotes on purpose, this can be a representation of our subconscious trying to work out issues. It can be us trying to answer questions. It can be talking to a higher power, because a lot of people use guided imagery as a prayer time, where they may be asking questions about how do I solve this problem, and they get relaxed enough to the point that they feel like they figure it out. Or in prayer or in meditation, or just having that quiet time, things become a little more clear. So pros and cons. I only found one con when I was putting this together last week, and the one con was that it can take some practice. It can take doing it several times to feel comfortable with it. But to me, this is one of the easiest ones that there is. But there's lots of pros, and I went on lots of different websites and found these. The number one being relaxation, and then just having some insight, especially if you are trying to work through something, kind of having those answers come to you, wisdom. It's free. It doesn't cost anything to do guided imagery. It can be done anywhere and anyone can do it. It can actually relieve physical tension as we start to relax. It can definitely relieve psychological stress. It distracts us from whatever stressor we have going on, or stressors we have going on. It puts us in a more positive frame of mind. It can disrupt patterns of rumination. And this is one of those that we can really get caught up in, where we are rolling things through our mind, especially lots of times we call them those woulda, coulda, shouldas, where we're going back over and over and over things that we can't change, but for some reason we keep going back to them. Guided imagery is a great way to break that cycle, to break that up. It's easier than exercise, and it's easier than yoga, even though both of those things are very good things. This is easier, and there's no side effects from this. So we're going to talk about how do you actually do some guided imagery. And I tried to choose some pictures. Let me go back with each of these that kind of represent, this one's probably my favorite because it's on the beach and being out with the water. So I tried to just choose some different pictures.
Come here, baby. Yeah, you did math with your teacher. No.
This is another one right here about having a fire, and a lot of people with their guided imageries will use fireplaces or a bonfire because that's lots of sensory memories with a fire. So the first thing that we're going to do is, before we start a guided imagery, is to get very comfortable, to get in a relaxed position, very similar to the one that you've used for meditation or for a breathing exercise. As we start into this, and the guide that we're going to use, she's going to also talk us through this a little bit, but a lot of people close their eyes because, like I said, it is very similar to a daydream. But one thing that you can also do is you can create your own guided imagery. When I was in Florida last week, I stood out at the beach and I just took video of the beach. And it was very quiet. So all there was, it was the sound of, there were seagulls, there was the waves, there was the wind, and I can set that right here in front of me and I can go there again. So if you're using something that are your own photos, your own picture, your own video, then you might have your eyes open, but you can also do this with your eyes closed. Making sure and do the belly breathing, where we're breathing in peace, we're breathing out stress, letting our belly expand and contract, not our chest. We want our belly to be going up and down and not our chest. If our chest is going up and down, then we're not taking deep breaths. Those are shallow breaths. Then we're going to want to choose a scene and vividly imagine it. Actually envision ourselves in the middle of the most relaxing environment that you can imagine. And this is where it takes a little bit of practice, because you may switch. You may decide to do a different place. You might be floating in water. You might be sitting at the beach. You might be with your family. You might be eating a meal or on a boat. You might be flying through the air. You may be, like this picture showing, sitting right there by that fire. You may be watching a snow. You may be just sitting in nature. But you go to a happy place in your memory or from a scene in a book or a movie, And it can be a place that you've always wanted to visit and you're going to imagine what it would be like to be there, or it can be a place that you actually have been to. And then what you're going to work on, and again, either with your eyes closed or while looking at the scene, is you're going to really focus on the sensory details. And this is where we can kind of start letting go of all those other things that are going on in our mind. So if we start trying to use all of our senses, and I'm going to use, because that last picture was the one of the fire, if I were sitting there outside, it probably is really, really cold outside, but we've built this fire right here and we can feel the heat coming off of that fire. So what does it look like in detail? So if we're sitting there looking at the fire, we may be looking at the different colors that are coming up in that fire. And then what does it feel like on our skin? Wherever we're going in this guided imagery, we want to be able to see it, to feel it. What special scents do you smell? And we've all smelled a burning fireplace or that fire outside, where you can actually get to where with your sensory memory, you can smell that. What do you hear? Do you hear water? Is it the roar of the fire? Do you hear birds? Are you in your guided imagery? Can you taste anything? Is it someplace where you might be tasting? And this is called being mindful. And that's kind of a term that's popular right now, is mindfulness. And it has been proven to have lasting stress management benefits. Being mindful is about being present right now, not being in the past, not being in the future. We're just being right now. And then relax, stay as long as you'd like, enjoy your surroundings and leave your stress behind you. When you're ready to come back to reality, one of the best things you can do is just to start to count backwards from 10 and tell yourself that when you get to 1, you will be alert, you will be serene, and you will be ready to enjoy the rest of your day. So almost, I think of it as like hitting a reset button. Some people find it beneficial to use ambient sounds or music to feel more immersed and to block out the world around. While I was reading more this weekend, after I'd already put this PowerPoint together, I was reading that during guided imagery, a lot of people use what's called blue noise. You may have heard of white noise. You can buy a white noise machine that's almost like a staticky sounding shh. But blue noise is when you're listening to actual sounds. So some of you have seen the noise machine that it sounds like thunder. It sounds like a rainstorm. It sounds like you are sitting out on the beach. They have one that is fireplace, where you're listening to a fireplace. They also have apps on the phone. So it said that doing guided imagery with those sounds, that you can even kind of immerse yourself even further into it. You may need to set a soft alarm if you don't want to go to sleep, or if you only have a short time. So if I were sitting here doing this at work, that probably wouldn't be good for me to wake up at 5 o'clock, and I've been sitting here since 2. And when I put the word soft alarm, you don't want to be in a guided imagery and then have your alarm go off and it be like a siren, because that's going to have that startle reflex and you could undo everything that you just did. I actually found an alarm that is a harp, and it's one of the ones that's on the iPhone. So it comes up very soft, and then it gets louder if you don't turn it off. So if you did happen to fall asleep, it gets louder, but it comes on kind of slowly and softly. It's not just a siren or a bell or something, so that we don't startle out of it. And then the more you practice, the quicker you'll actually be able to relax while doing these. All right, does anybody have any questions about guided imagery before we try it? I'm gonna go to a YouTube, and this actually is somebody at a children's hospital that's gonna talk us through how to do a guided imagery. And I did choose one that is the beach, since it is supposed to be over 100 degrees today. I thought that might be a nice place to be, would be on the beach. So that'd be a good place for us to go. You may have to help me, Jamie. So I'm going to stop sharing, but then I'm going to start sharing again. And this time I'm going to share sound. I might get it right. Can you see it?
Yes.
You can?
Yeah.
So let me make this big. And if everybody would just get comfortable. And this is about 4 minutes. And so we're going to try this guided imagery, being on a beach, and she's going to talk you through the senses part of it as well. Jamie, just let me know if you can hear it, please.
My name is Amy Morris, and I'm a pediatric psychologist at Chalk Children's. Today, I'm going to offer you a guided imagery strategy that you can use to help to calm your mind and your body during times of stress.
I invite you to place yourself in a relaxed seated position. Close your eyes or avert your gaze to a spot in the room. Take a deep breath in, allowing your natural breath to come through your nostrils, hit the back of your throat, and exit your mouth. Just allow yourself to breathe in whatever way is natural for you. Breathing in and out. Noticing the change in temperature of your breath as it enters your nose, hits the back of your throat, and exhales. In and out. I invite you to look and imagine in the distance a wooden pathway with a sandy beach up ahead. You begin to take steps towards the sandy beach, beginning to feel the cool, powdery sand underneath your feet. The smell of salt water begins to fill your nose and lungs, and you feel the warm air of the sun hit the top of your head. You walk ahead and notice in the distance a towel. You might choose to sit down and gaze out onto the horizon, noticing how the sun glistens on the top of the water. Beautiful blue and aqua. And you hear the rush of the waves as they crash on the shore and then recede back out to sea. You allow yourself to look far off into the horizon, imagining what's off in the distance, enjoying the sparkle of the sun on the beautiful water, feeling a cool breeze and the warmth of the sun against the top of your head and shoulders. You begin to feel more and more relaxed, more at peace. And taking a deep breath in and exhaling. Feeling the sand between your toes. It's soft, soothing. And with another deep breath in, you begin to stand up, taking one last look at the water, the sparkling of the sun as it glistens on the top of it. And as you turn, you see a seagull flying ahead. You're feeling more refreshed, more alert, and more at peace. And as you make your way off the beach and towards the wooden path, remember that this place is always here for you. A place to rejuvenate, a place to relax, and a place to restore.
All right. Now you could imagine that if you'd had the sounds of the waves in the background. I was trying to watch it and caught my eyes even kind of glazing over, and I've watched that several times already today. So it's interesting how you can go there. Let me get back to this. Anybody have any questions or comments, or have you used guided imagery before?
Holly, this is Maria.
Hey.
You know, when you started out and one of it was that used for when you have treatments and stuff. When I first had my tumor and I was having like CAT scans like monthly, you know, you go into that tube and I mean, it's very small in there. They did give me the choice of some music or whatever, and I just chose the classical, you know, soft, whatever. And as they pulled me back in, I kind of looked up and I saw this beautiful picture. It was nature, okay? And so I thought somehow that they had the machine with the back towards a window or something, but there was a mirror kind of up there. And so I thought to myself, well, that's pretty cool because, you know, I can watch something that's beautiful. And I don't know how they did it, but, and so with the music and the picture back there, I mean, there were a couple of times that it just went, and it's interesting because you have all that pounding and all that stuff from CAT scans, if anybody's had some, and it's just, you wouldn't think that you could fall asleep. And there was a couple of times that actually, as they're pulling me out, I'm like startling because I have actually fallen asleep.
Right.
But it was just, it was somehow they had this little mirror and it kind of just gave you a view of something. There was no window back there. There wasn't anything, but it just made it seem like it. And it definitely de-stressed and didn't even make you think that you're in this little bitty confined spot or anything. And I mean, to even relax enough to like, just let your body go.
Right.
Know?
Right. Oh, I'm glad you
I
shared
look forward
that.
to my CAT scans.
Yeah. So during a treatment, then being able, and that's what I kept finding is that lots of places are using this for all different kinds. I'm glad you mentioned that with the CAT scan because it is noisy, it's a confined space, but to be able to just go somewhere and you're going in your, that's why I said it's like a daydream. You're going in your mind there. And for us to be able also during times of high stress, where maybe we do get a chance to step away for just a few minutes and take those deep breaths, and I'm just going to go to the beach. I'm just going to sit in front of that fire. I'm just going to look over at that part, whatever it is. So that is what guided imagery is. All right, in our last few minutes, this is our journal prompt for this week, for those of you that's been keeping a journal. And this week, this is kind of about having a heart-to-heart with yourself, having a heart-to-heart with that inner critic that you've got within yourself. And you can even do this in the form of a letter. That's one of the things that is used in counseling a lot, is to kind of write a letter to yourself. And this one is to write a letter to that part of yourself that keeps beating you up, because we tend to do that to ourselves, where we're much harder on ourselves than we are on other people. So I'll put on here, has your inner critic been extra vocal lately? Has she or he been having a lot to say to you recently? Take this opportunity on paper to dismiss those negative comments and to replace the negative comments with positive comments, positive quotes. Most of us have those little things that we've got stuck up on our computer or stuck on our mirror. I've got Bible verses right here by my computer screen so that I can glance up there, and I've got 2 Timothy 1:7, I am not ruled by fear, right there where I can just see it all the time. And that's what this is. It's replacing those negative thoughts with positive thoughts, verses, quotes, etc., and doing it on paper so that you can kind of come back to that from time to time. or anytime that you do start having those negative thoughts, if you can put them down on paper and even put a line through it, put an X through it, and then being able to replace that with a more positive thought. And there's our information. There's my email and Jamie's email.